Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. If you're someone who is trying to build the habit of reading, or you started reading but you are unable to understand what you're reading, then this video might be helpful to you. So in the previous video, we talked about how social media and doom scrolling eating up our time and brain. And I have also shared my experience with you how I was able to cut down on social media usage and screen time. So if you would like to watch the video, I'll just link it here. So once you start detaching from social media, or if you try doing it, one of the things that's going to hit you the most is boredom. You'll get bored if you don't have anything to do. But boredom is in a way good for human beings. That's when we actually think creatively and thinking about doing stuff that we love to do. We try out different stuff and we identify a few stuff that we actually love to do. But nowadays we don't get bored because whenever we feel bored, we just take out the phone and go through social media, doom scrolling. So we don't get a chance to get bored nowadays. But once you stop using social media, you'll get that void space and you'll start, thinking creatively and identifying things that you might not have considered before. So I have also gone through the same process. When I stopped social media usage, I had a lot of time left and I started to get bored. I was able to find things which I am actually interested in. So one of the key things in those areas are reading. I haven't read any books in my entire life except for the academic ones when I was in my school or college. After that, I haven't touched any books. It was extremely difficult for me to build the habit. Even though I blocked some time and sat with a book to read, I was not able to focus and I couldn't even complete 1 or 2 pages. And eventually, when I started to crack it and complete 1 or 2 pages, I was not understanding anything I was reading. I went through the same paragraph multiple times, but still, I was not getting what I read. I was just running through the lines. Not sure if you have noticed this lately. We all use chatbots nowadays. And earlier, when we used chatbots, we were able to get summary for 20 to 30 pages of report in maybe 1 or 2 pages. And we were so happy. But nowadays, we can't tolerate reading or going through the one-page summary itself. We need something more short and concise. Maybe we started to ask chatbots to get summary in 5 or 10 bullet points. That is good when you are doing some kind of time-bound stuff, or you have tight deadline. That's okay to do. But the scariest thing is we started to implement that in our personal life as well. So earlier when we were in school or college, we used to read a lot of books. Then the volume has reduced significantly. And then we, ended up reading 1 or 2 summary pages. And now we are just reading 5 or 10 bullet points. We don't have time or we don't have the focus to read 1 or 2 pages. That is really scary. So eventually we have built up a shortcut method for everything. So that's why we are unable to sit with a book and read 1 or 2 pages. And our brain got used to it. While we are going through social media, doom scrolling, we have a lot of content flashing through our eyes within minutes. So it is very difficult for our brain to focus on a specific thing for more than maybe 5 or 10 minutes. 10 minutes is very rare. So now our brain is not getting used to that pace anymore. We need everything so quickly and within no time. Any activity you do, there are multiple areas in your brain that is getting activated. Like if you're reading, there is part of the brain related to memory, language, translation that is getting activated. And if you're writing, there are many other areas of the brain that is getting activated. So these are not independently working. All of these are a chain, mutually connected. So these are connected pathways. We can call it neural pathways, because our brain is built up of billions of neurons. And all these pathways that is helping us to do some activity, we can call them neural pathways. And the more the same activity you do, the more the neural pathways will get strengthened. For example, if you're reading a lot, over the time, the neural pathways that is helping you to read will get strengthened. But if you stop reading, or if you stop doing a specific activity, the neural pathways won't disappear, but it will reduce in strength and endurance. For example, if you are going to gym, your muscles will get strengthened. But if you stop going to the gym, your muscles won't disappear, but it will start reducing strength and endurance. One more analogy for you. Imagine your brain is a forest and reading is a path in the forest. If you walk the path every day, the path will stay clear. But if you stop walking the path, it will get overgrown. Reading or any other skill is also like that. If you stop doing it, it will eventually get diminished, but it won't disappear. So, how can we get back to the initial stage? How can we strengthen the neural pathways? That we can do that only by repeatedly doing the same thing again and again. So, if you want to build the habit of reading, it will be difficult in the beginning, but you should do it anyways. And over time, the neural pathways, which is helping you to read, focus and read, will get strengthened. And this ability of brain to strengthen the neural pathways over repeatedly doing some activity is called neuroplasticity. So now we know what the issue is. We are not getting used to that reading activity. So the neural pathways are getting diminished. Now let's try to look at how we can recover from it. Before jumping into how I was able to build the habit of reading, I'll let you know the stages that I have gone through while building up the habit of reading. So when I decided to start the habit of reading, I started to buy a lot of books that I haven't even started reading yet. So I'm not sure if you have experienced this before. If you watch the workout videos in the YouTube and if you watch it multiple times, your brain will eventually start to trick you. You'll get some kind of satisfaction just by watching the video. Even if you are not doing any work, you'll start to get a satisfaction or a reward, a kind of reward that your brain will get just by watching the video. So I was also trapped in the same uh, issue. I started to buy a lot of books, and I was just getting satisfied. The book was just sitting in the corner of my room. I was not reading it. I was not giving attention to it. But I started to have the satisfaction that, yeah, I'm just buying books and I started to build the habit. But ultimately, no, I didn't start to build the habit. I just bought some books and I just kept it over somewhere in the room. And there is even a Japanese term for it. It's called zundoku, buying a lot of stuff and not using it at all. And I needed to stop it. So I decided that I won't be buying or I won't be making any purchases until I complete one or two books. So I was able to control myself and stop the buying spree. Okay, finally, I selected a book to read. I selected a non-fiction book in plain English because if I had selected a classic or any other heavy literature books or something, it will be really difficult for me because whenever I read every third word, I'll have to refer back to a dictionary. So eventually, I'll spend more time on dictionary rather than spending time on my own book. So I went with a non-fiction in plain English. But even then, it was really difficult for me to follow what's being written on that. I read or I went through the same paragraph multiple times and I was not able to comprehend what I was reading. It was the scariest thing for me. So I even started questioning my English knowledge level. So I decided that I'll buy a book in regional language, Malayalam, and I'll read it. The funniest part was Malayalam book was even harder for me. So I came back to English again. So in fact, I have the same book in both English and Malayalam with me. So yeah, so that again, I came back to English and started to read again. Once I came back to English books, I started to switch books. So I read 2 pages of a book. I don't understand. I just switched book. I just jumped to another book and another book again. So it happened multiple times. And and then I just fixed one book and I started to make some annotations in the book. So when I read one paragraph, whether I understand or not, I just make some notes just in the margin. So if you are someone who would love to keep your books in the pristine condition, you may not do notes in the margin, but you can use another notebook or another additional book to take the notes. But I usually take notes in my books itself. I just take take annotations and mark within the journal and within the margin. So if you look at here, if you go through the pages, I have made some highlights and made some uh, annotations in the margin. So you can find it throughout the book. Yeah, here as well. So in that way, when you go through a paragraph, you finish the paragraph, you try to recall what you just read, you just highlight any point that you were able to understand or get from the specific paragraph. So eventually I picked up the speed and I was able to understand what I am reading. But then came the another problem. When I reached the 20th page, I forgot what I read in the first page. So I was just trying different methods and I find out one method which was useful for me. So when you complete one chapter, you can make a summary of that chapter. For example, if you come here, so this is a summary of a chapter that I just noted down. So I just do this for all the chapters, all the books. So what's the use of doing this? So once you complete a chapter, you just go through all the annotations that you made in the margin. So you get an idea like what's happening in the specific chapter. And you just consolidate it and make 2 or 3 points by the end of the book. So in that way, you get an idea like what's happening in the chapter. So once you complete maybe 5 or 6 chapters, you don't have to go through all the books or all the pages. You can just refer back to the chapter summary that you just made, and you'll get a fair idea that what you just read. And you can go to the next chapter. If you want to make this, comparatively less heavier, I would recommend you take a small number of pages book. Because if you go with 500 or 800 pages book in the first try itself, you will be focusing more on when you will be able to finish the whole book rather than focusing on a single chapter or single page. But you should have a lot of patience because it is going to take a lot of time. Like I mentioned, the neural pathways will take time to get developed and strengthened. So you'll have to do it multiple times, even if you're getting bored or even if you're getting not understanding it. So eventually you will find the way. Even in fact, I took 56 days to complete my first book. It was Atomic Habits by James Clear. It has around 300 pages, but I took almost 2 months. It will take time, it's fine, because you're trying to build a habit that you haven't had before. So definitely it will take time. You should have enough patience to go through it. So eventually I was able to build the habit. It took me 2 months to complete my first book. So when I completed my first book, even though it took 2 months, it was a really good motivation for me. So I started to implement a system around it. So now I read 2 books, one active book and another passive book. So whenever I have time to sit down, relax, take a pen and make some notes in the book, I go with the active book. But if I'm traveling outside or I can't write down anything, I go with the passive book. So this is currently my active book. I make some annotations and highlights within the book. And if I can't do that, I go with the passive book. So this is currently my passive book. So once I complete reading the active book, I just, keep it away and restart reading it. And then this passive book will become my active book. And then I'll find another book to be my passive book. So what's the advantage of it? One thing is that you don't break the streak. See, we are building a habit, so we should continuously do it. We should not try to miss it. We are human beings, so definitely we'll miss it. But you should not miss 2 days in a row, because if you miss 2 days in a row, it will start to develop into become another habit. So don't miss 2 days in a row. Since I am going with the active and passive book, even though I don't have time to get invested, I just go with the passive book. So my streak is not getting broken. And another advantage is that I get to read the book twice, which will help with the retention. If you just go with a single book, once you finish it, you have to select another book, and you have to demo read it, go through it multiple times and identify a book that you are actually getting interested. But if you're having a passive book, you don't have to look for other books. You can just take it as an active book and start reading it. And by the time you can, look for another books and add it as a passive book. So this cycle will continue. So this is the system that I'm following right now. It might change in the future, but this is actually helping me to build a habit and, sustain with it. And I don't feel heavy at all. So speaking of consistency, I'll just, share an experience where I felt embarrassed, unnecessarily embarrassed, to be honest. So whenever I started to read the habit of book, I started to carry a book wherever I go. So once I went to a hospital, I had to wait for some time in the waiting lobby. one and a half hours. So I started to read a book, but I was not able to concentrate. I was having a weird feeling that people are actually looking into me. You know, they might think that I'm just acting or I'm just trying to be a genius. But the reality is, nobody is actually looking at you. Nobody is actually focusing on you. They don't have time to do that. So in psychology, this is called spotlight effect. You feel like people are focusing on you, but they are actually no, they don't care at all. See, if you're using a phone in a public space and that's normal, then just normalize using a book as well in a public space. That's okay. Nobody is actually focusing on you. Nobody cares. Even after trying all these steps, if you are unable to focus on a specific book or a page for a 10 or 15 minutes, try this hack. I just tried it and it worked out for me. If you are unable to focus on a book, try to focus on a movie, because movie is less demanding, and you don't have to get much invested in a movie to enjoy it. But if you are unable to focus on a 2 hours movie, then there is another hack. If you're watching reels continuously or any short form of uh, contents continuously, try to reduce the volume of it. If you're watching 100 reels, try to reduce it by 80, and instead of the 20 reels, you just start watching a short film or something like that. So instead of going through multiple 20 or 20 plus reels, you just start focusing on maybe a short film with 8 minutes duration or 10 minutes duration. So while you're doing it, eventually you'll be able to pick up on focus. So you just reduce the number of reels that you're watching and increase the number of short films that you're watching. Step by step, increase the duration of the short film that you're watching. By the end of few months, you'll be able to completely cut down on reels and watch multiple short films, and eventually try to expand the duration of the short film. If you have started with a 10-minute short film, just push it to 15-minute short film. So you will start watching, maybe 5 or 10 short films in a day. That's fine. At least you're not watching reels or any other shorter form content. And eventually switch to movies with 1.5 hours or 2 hours of duration. So now you have stretched your attention span to sit through a 2 hours of duration movies. From there, slightly shift to books. Pick up a small book and start reading it. And on the other hand, you can continue watching a movie as well. Watching a movie is passive, but reading a book is kind of active. You need to get more invested to understand what you're reading. So start now, you'll be able to pick up the pace. It might feel difficult for you in the beginning, but it will work. It worked for me. So these are just my experiences building up the habit of reading. I hope this helps you too as well. So in the next video, we'll see what's there in the first books that I completed reading. So just start reading today and you'll definitely see changes in you. Happy reading.